thus far?
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, the smoke is making me, it gives me a certain edge to my voice. I have asthma, so I feel like we now have a fifth season, and that seems to be smoke somewhere between fall and summer.
Exactly. But we had a good summer, didn't we? In
Yeah,
terms
it was
of,
beautiful. It went by it was the fastest summer of my life. So I'm just playing with my, there we go. And I couldn't figure out why. So like, what made the summer go so fast? And then I realized it's because we were at 5 different conferences, having us out of the city for at least 30 days. So I feel like conferences started beginning of June and
yeah.
then went all the way through and had us going from Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, two in Calgary.
It was fun though, wasn't it?
It was very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm very lucky to love what I do.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you for doing this. I know we've been wanting to get together and chat for some time now, haven't we?
yes, yeah. I think probably outside of that very busy summer I just described.
Yeah.
Again, we're kind of like in a 1 month lull and we're back on the road again.
Ah,
So I need to be very careful with our calendars at the moment because it's easy to absentmindedly book or double book myself right now.
right. Yeah. And is it for the app or is it?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it's all
Holy.
for the app, which is exciting. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we launched our beta on App Store quietly, kind of because, as
Mhm.
you know, it was our first kind of public product. So we didn't want to, bring in too many users until we saw how people were using it, what they're enjoying, any difficulties or roadblocks they were running into. I think we have problem solved those now, and it's looks like next week we'll have our first kind of major update release that should
Okay.
make things a little bit easier for users, integrating some of the feedback we've received. And then in the next few months, we hope to start actively marketing. So right now, we've just kind of put ourselves quietly out there.
Mhm.
We've still reached about 500 users just through
Good
really
God.
quiet organic growth. Lots of people are using it a lot, which is
Yeah.
exciting. We have one user has already added over 240 recommendations. We have a handful of daily users. And I mean, those are big recommendations with like multiple paragraphs and all the
Yeah.
photos. And we've gotten random emails from people saying they've used it as their primary planning tool for trips in Europe.
It's really neat though because oh gosh, if I want to book something, I don't even know where to look. Like I go on VRBO, Airbnb,
Yeah.
Expedia, WestJet. Like
Yeah.
how do you, there's too
And you know
many.
what?
Like kayak. I mean, where do
Yeah.
you start? What's a good hotel? And yeah, sure, there's random people on there that have recommended stuff, but it would kind of be nice to have a community itself, right?
Yeah. And you said the keyword there, random. And so all of the mainstream sites, every existing review site works now to serve the mainstream. And or to serve the masses might be a better word, right? They kind of group everyone together and they apply a quantitative value to a qualitative experience. They say, we're going to say the number one restaurant in Calgary is the one that has the most top reviews. And when you look at that, that doesn't really work because what do you have in common with those people? Do you have the same preferences, experience, taste? And so in serving the masses, existing review sites totally miss the nuances of preference, need, taste, that makes us each unique. And that's kind of what makes you text one friend or someone you know to ask for their recommendation somewhere. That's
Okay.
exactly the problem we ran into is it took so many sources and so many different platforms to kind of hodgepodge together a proper travel inspiration, research, planning, and then booking that it didn't really make any sense. We're like, there must be a better system out there. Plus, every existing platform doesn't even connect you to the recommendations or that you actually want or the information you want. And so we found any way you went about it, if you asked an individual for a recommendation, first you had to remember who you knew had been there. You send them a text or an email. You're at their mercy for when they decide to text you back.
Mhm.
And then you get a list. And then you have to take that list and you have to research each individual place in your chosen method. Google, Facebook, usually multiple, right? You might look at a TripAdvisor, look at it on Google, and then look at their Instagram account to get like the idea of who likes that
Yeah.
place, what the feeling is. Are they still open? And then you have to plot it on a map and see, okay, is this even close to where I'm staying? Is this my price range? There's just so much work to do. Um, and you have to remember who's been there. Or your starting point might be Instagram. You're like, okay, I remember seeing someone I know was in Vietnam. What were they posting? Where were they? You have to go through their accounts. If it was on a story, it's gone forever unless you screenshotted it and saved it for yourself.
Now you got to go
You
find it. Yeah.
need to find it, but there's no way to search who's been to Vietnam. So I keep mentioning Vietnam because that's where we came up with the idea. My husband and co-founder Jason and I, we were on our honeymoon in Vietnam and we're sitting on one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, glued to our computer, our phone, and two different guidebooks. And also to travel for 6 weeks with, 2 different guidebooks for every country we're going to, we're like, this is ridiculous. And every guidebook recommends 3 places. Then we have to look it up. I'm digging through Instagram and Facebook because my husband, ironically, is not on social media. He's going through TripAdvisor, looking at every photo, trying to see what these people are like. You get people who are panning a beautiful hotel because in the tropics they found a spider in their bathtub. Like, it was just so disjointed, so disorganized, and so impersonal. And
Right.
we're
And
like,
and oftentimes when you're looking at these guidebooks, anybody that's in media or marketing or advertising will know that that is a paid ad, not actually organic from somebody to say, hey, you know what, that actually is a good spot to go. Not the person that's got
exactly.
the biggest bank account. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. To get on the front landing page for Google or TripAdvisor in highly competitive markets costs into the several tens of thousands of dollars. And you can't even establish commonality with someone. So you land on a business page and maybe you've Googled them and you've moved off Google into TripAdvisor to get a feeling for the place. You have no idea who's recommending it, giving it 5 stars or giving it 1 star. You don't know what you have in common with them. It could be a 55-year-old from Saskatchewan who had sushi for the first time and gave a sushi restaurant a 1 star. And we were saying, well, what if you could connect with a sushi chef and see what they recommend or see what their favorite sushi places are? So the problem with existing sites, it's a platform, it's a soapbox for anyone, and you can't easily establish, like, where is that person coming from that they gave that review?
That is so interesting. Now, how important are reviews out there in this day and age?
Well, they're very important, but if we break that down a little bit further, we focus on recommendations precisely because, again, every review site, and they're called review sites, they operate on the same premise of awarding a 1 through 5 star rating to a business. However, it's problematic for the business in that 94% of consumers will avoid or change their mind about going to a business once they see a negative review.
Yes.
Like, well, how are you supposed to? You have no control over user generated content. And again, you can't control if you get a 1 star from a person who's just having a miserable day. Often you'll see 1 stars come from someone who's left like 20 other 1 stars. They basically go there to complain about bad experience they've had. And maybe they're just in the wrong business. If a vegan goes to a steakhouse with no vegetarian options, they might pan the restaurant. But that doesn't mean that you as a steak lover isn't going to find a fantastic place. So that's what SeekPeak does, is it's broken it down and made it easy. So you can find recommendations from people who you have something in common with or whose taste you admire or appreciate.
Yeah. It's interesting that you tie it back to Vietnam and a real world experience where you and your husband just were wondering, where do we start? All these books, all these sites, and it's digital clutter, isn't it, out there?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just a scattering of information. None of it's concise and none of it's personal. And we're like, this is such a painstaking process. There has to be a better way. And we kind of put everything down. We thought, well, let's do it. Let's make the better way. So from there, we went in our next major city. I tracked out an English bookstore and we bought Sprint and we started planning out our sprint.
Oh,
Sprint is a book that kind of walks you through how to sprint an idea. We took it a little bit further than that, but it helped kind of map out our first ideas. And it's funny, I had like a little book that I was trying to keep track of where we went in our honeymoon.
right.
And it became a business planning book. So it became our first notebook for SeekPeak, where I was mapping out UI designs and functionality and features. And it was interesting because we were actively traveling. Everywhere we went, people had the same pain point as us. And so fast forward several years now, we took a little bit of a break. At the moment, I had a very busy real estate business. We ended up starting our family a little bit sooner than we anticipated. We bought a house and did a massive renovation, almost rebuilt it. So, we're kind of like, it's hard to shed that entrepreneurial. you can be taking on too many projects and find yourself taking on too many projects. But circling back, I stayed home with my daughter for about 2 years. And I was like, okay, if someone else builds this, and we didn't take our shot, like, how will I ever live with myself? How will I ever be able to, if we have, I started the idea, we started building it and mapping it out. And as I was home, I was still reading business books and obsessively listening to business podcasts. And I kept my notebooks going with what it would look like and what the theme was. And suddenly I said to Jason, I said, we just have to do this. Let's start small and let's just start building and see where it takes us. So
how long has it been since the build to launch?
I have been working on this full time since March 2020, pretty well. So it started off part-time and then swiftly grew into above full-time. And our product's been on the App Store again quietly for about a month, 6 weeks, I guess. Actually, I guess about 2 months now, but just quietly, again, just to open up our pool of testers, because we were keeping our beta very closed. We had an invite only group of maybe about 100 people testing it.
Yeah, close
And
friends, family, and yeah.
yeah, and some people we didn't know that well. People would just be email. What was neat about the project is I just kind of put it on Instagram. First, always testing, seeing who our product was, seeing what stuck with people, seeing what people liked. And also, just carving out the name, kind of getting our placeholder out there. And what was very interesting to me is with very few followers, we started getting crazy engagement, like 27,000 impressions of a post. When we only had like 700 followers, and people in businesses emailing us asking to get involved. How can we get involved? Most notably, we had a 21 property luxury hotel and restaurant chain based in Europe and Asia see our Instagram, reach out to me. I had a meeting with their executive of marketing for the whole brand. It includes Michelin star restaurants in Rome, like very chic group, asking us to be involved. They're like, we don't know what you are, but we need to get involved. And so I had a meeting with them and onboarded all of their businesses.
Wow. Now, is it always, or is it only the chic, or is it also the mom and pop restaurants?
It's everything. And what's pretty neat about network effect and a networked platform is it's kind of a choose your own adventure. SeekPeak will reflect back to you after a little bit of use, your own interests, your own niche, how you like to travel. I think we've been early on somewhat, I want to say pigeonholed, because it can work for the luxury set. It can also work for someone in the, who a budget traveler who wants to find authentic experiences. Our whole thing is circling it back to the person and saying that, you and I might have very different experiences in the same place and very different opinions on what we deem to be the best or our favorite place. And that's fine. We can seek our own path on SeekPeak and find recommendations from people like us who have our same preferences and tastes.
Right. So I have the app, and for somebody that's listening to this app, they download it off the App Store?
Yes.
And is it currently only on Apple?
It is, yes.
Okay.
So we coded on something called React Native.
Yes.
For our fellow geeks out there.
Very familiar with that.
Yeah, you say with a deep sigh, oh no.
No, it's good. It's a good one.
Yeah. That was a big choice. I feel like you're like, do I go this way? As I'm sure you know, making that decision for which is kind of like picking your undergrad or which university you choose to go to.
Where do you start? It's
Yeah.
all a learning, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yes, absolutely. Yes, a very steep learning curve. As somewhat of like a learning addict, I would almost call myself. Like I love learning. That's I think why I love working on it so much. Like
Isn't it fun though? Like
I love it. Yeah. Even the challenges, even the stresses, I still enjoy. Like I genuinely am so passionate about the project. That I find it very fun. But so sorry, we coded on React Native, which means for those of you there who aren't familiar, that we're about halfway on Android. So we went forward with iPhone because it's about 90% of North American travelers are on iPhone. So it's the most widely used. iOS is the most widely used platform for our demographic. Which you have to pinpoint one. And so we said it was people who travel frequently was kind of who we were looking to we realized would be our first audience.
When you look at the world as a whole, it's like where technology is used mainly. So Android is in certain areas of the world.
Yes,
North America, like you said, Apple.
Yeah.
And then it's like Nokia back, it's overseas in
certain areas. Yeah, Asia, I mean, is predominantly Android. Samsung. And it makes sense because you look, I mean, first of all, just the way that Apple's marketed, right? It's very easy to use. It has a very high price point, which I think was wrapped into part of its appeal. But you also look, North American telecommunications plans usually have a device buy-on. So, Canadians pay the most out of any other country for our mobile plans. And so baked into that, we get devices. So it kind of makes sense when you look at why that is beyond just their marketing being incredibly successful. So we found, but definitely our list of Android, people waiting for us to develop on Android is growing. So right now, we're part of the reason we're going to all the conferences is we're actively fundraising. I'm sure you remember that step as well. So we're looking for the right partners to move us forward. We're building out our team right now. So we're talking to some CTOs, so chief technical officers to bring on board, getting some communication team members. hopefully to wrap that up kind of end of the year, and then be able to move forward with it with further feature development on Android, etc.
Have you talked to a few of the PR companies out here?
So Jason and I have bootstrapped the project entirely. So we own 100% of the company right now. But that also puts us in a position, we're not spending money right now on anything. So what's also pretty unique with SeekPeak is it's been 100% organic. We have 55 notable users. So those are experts, tastemakers. We've stayed away from influencers, and we've literally tried to put there on our homepage. There's first suggested follows for everyone, but everyone can access their little book of favorite places. So it's kind of like opening up our app is like having access to the Rolodex of Canada's top chef, award-winning sushi chefs, star architects and designers, furniture.
Walker McKinley.
Yep, Walker is one of them. That's right. Because we're like, hey, when you travel, imagine that you couldn't just text your friend who lived in Los Angeles and say, what should I do while I'm here? Imagine you could type in Los Angeles, see everyone has recommendations there, and pick out chefs and artists and designers and facialists, like people who specialize in what you're looking for. And that's what you can do on SeekPeak. So you could literally right now type in, we have a Google API plugin, which means we show millions of businesses. If it appears on Google, it appears on SeekPeak, but we've repackaged it. So it's chic, it's super user-friendly. It shows you who recommends a place. It shows you, it lets you get an instant contact with the business. So you can instantly pull up a text or a phone call from their page within us. You can save it to an upcoming trip on which you can collaborate with others. You can save it to a list to remember later. Except again, it's with that filter of who recommended it.
Just trying to pull it up here.
Yeah. So for instance, I'll go back to that search. It's one of my favorite features is you could right now type in Paris and it will show you everyone who has a recommendation in Paris. Because our whole point is on everything else, you can type in Paris restaurant and just see Paris restaurants. And it's overwhelming. There's like thousands of them. Where do you even begin? And they have the #1 rated, but like you said, how do you know they didn't pay for that spot? Or, you know, how do you know they even have something on the menu they like? So what we're saying is take it many steps back. The best recommendation always begins with a person. So find someone like you, find someone you respect, you admire, and see what they specifically recommend where you're going.
You know what I just love about it is the UI UX and how literally sleek this design is and user friendly. When I was looking at it, I said, holy smokes, did Apple create this? Like, it was so clean.
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was,
and I know what it takes to put that effort in.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm completely, I do not know how to code at all. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. But I would say I art directed it because it would be, I designed it, but then for our developers had to, well, I designed it basically. And our developers had to
code it. Yeah.
Code it. Yeah. But you know, the logo I designed, it was to capture that moment when you're taking off and you happen to catch a sunrise or a sunset. It's the airplane window.
Yes.
That's literally the color gradient taken from a shot of sunrise or sunset. And then I applied that as our color scheme throughout in our branding. And the idea to be calm, cool, collected, because that's what I think the travel planning process should be. It should be a joy.
Yeah, you know what? Because we always see it very loud and in your face. This is very, like you said, calm, collective, peaceful, but yet it's sophisticated where, you know, somebody that's on this app is actually putting in that effort to want to maneuver through what they're looking for exactly. So
yeah, exactly. Again, where it's pretty surprising, but the most frequent traveling set, the discerning traveler, is completely unserved by existing review sites. And there's so many cool features that and again, we were slow to market because we took a long time. We spoke to lots of people. We did lots of user research to design something that was really solving a problem for people. You know, we used it ourselves everywhere we went this summer, but in Toronto, what was pretty cool, we were out there for Collision, which is, they call it Coachella for geeks. And
Collision,
yeah, it's a huge tech conference. So we ended up in an unusual area of Toronto we're not familiar with. We pulled up SeekPeak and we thought, well, let's go find a place for dinner before we have to head to the evening events. So we're scrolling through and on the place card, it will show you every restaurant just as if you're on Google, but we've kind of repackaged it into really easy to see cards that show the picture, the name of the restaurant, and anyone who's recommended it. So we're going, and it'll show you what's near you. So we're going through places, there's no recommendations, and all of a sudden there's this one place, and it's recommended by two people from different sides of the country who do not even know each other, but are both remarkable. One is a Yves Saint Laurent stylist in Toronto, and one is a world champion bartender. I think he's based in Vancouver now. And they both recommended the same place. So we said, okay, let's go check out this restaurant. It's a total, I want to say hole in the wall. It was so unassuming. We would have walked right past it. It did not on the street stand out from any other restaurant. And there actually were no people inside. So we were like, okay, but these guys say it, you know, let's go test our theory. We go in and we don't see any people because everyone's in the back. It's this absolutely gorgeous garden out back, packed with locals. We would have had no, and we're overhearing conversations. These are, you know, I overheard that someone was working at Fashion Television or something of the like. Like, it was a really cool set of people. It was packed back there, and it was a very modern, chic Italian place with natural wines and you know, unique dishes. We never in 1,000 years would have gone in had we not seen it was recommended by these two people.
You never know, right? And this is oftentimes those places would just walk by. So interesting.
Yeah. So that's kind of SeekPeak in a nutshell. That's walking through two of my favorite features. But
have you and Jason always been foodies and travel junkies?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've, I joke that I kind of like inadvertently been training for exactly this my whole life, because started, you know, my parents instilled a love of travel in me very young. So I started traveling frequently and pretty far reaching when I was young. I took my first solo trip when I was 16 to go visit family overseas. And that was my first time going to Paris and London and all of that. And I've kind of just never stopped traveling since. So I have a first class honors degree in communications from U of C that I had a large international component to. I lived in Sweden for 1 semester, and I studied international rhetoric and cross-cultural communications. Then coming back to Calgary, I did my honors thesis in marketing in a specific region of Europe. And then I TA'd senior level courses in globalization in Ecuador, focusing on globalization and cultural theory.
Right. So
yeah,
learning is definitely something you're interested in, and travel is definitely something.
Yeah, exactly. And then food. And then, you know, making my way to university, I worked in Calgary's hospitality industry. And I have many wonderful friends who operate, own, work within, keep the lights on, and the best of Western Canada's establishments. And I have a lot of respect for that industry. And I've always wondered, you know, when you pull up TripAdvisor, the restaurants that they recommend, we're like, we would never recommend this as someone coming to Calgary as the places they should check out. You know, a pizza delivery place shouldn't be our #1 restaurant, and it's not. So there's this total disjoint between editorial opinion and public opinion that these websites have gathered. And unless you know which editorial to look at for a specific city, that's not accessible information for people.
So SeekPeak, there's no actual 5-star reviews on it.
No, it's purely recommendation. The whole idea being, it's like you can go to my profile and see all of my favorite places around the world without having to have a conversation with me, ask me what they are, and it's networked to the actual business itself. So you can go to my profile, see every city I've been to,
right,
that I have recommendations in, see all my recommendations, and then go on the business profile. And that would be.
Here we go. So we're here on.
Yeah, and go, and she's one of our actual notable users. That's Canada's Top Chef winner, Nicole Gomez. You would go and you could click on the businesses, see where they're on a map, see the photos of them, see who else recommends them, get a feeling of what the place is like, what their fans are like, and then save it to an actual upcoming trip. Let's say you and I were traveling together. I could add you as a collaborator on the trip. And we could plan together in live time, leave little notes like, this looks cool, let's go here Friday night. What do you think about this? Or save it to a list if you don't have an upcoming trip, or just like general places. I have one list going of just cool places I see recommended that I'd like to remember for one day. I've seen other people have similar lists. And the whole idea being that's totally networked, and it's like carrying a curated Rolodex in your pocket for everywhere you want to go.
Fantastic.
Yeah, no star ratings, because it doesn't make any sense. You don't ask your friend, hey, where's everywhere you went in Paris and what did you think of it? It's like, you just want the recommendations.
It's true. Yeah, we don't want the crappy places. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want the 3 stars or the 1 stars. We want to see what you like. What do you recommend? What were your standout places? You know, I want to go try that. And that's what you do regularly all the time. But it's not captured in any sort of networked searchable database.
Right. So the businesses couldn't get affected by this. So you can say on, say, a business's profile, I don't recommend this place. You
It
could
would
write
get
that.
removed. Yeah, it would be removed for not being, part of our user agreement is, we will remove things that aren't on point with our content. So simple flagging system, you see something that's not a review or it's not a recommendation, you're a business, you can flag it and it gets removed.
I like that it feeds off of the positivity that we all
Yeah,
need, and especially in that
totally.
time. Like you said, it's such a basic thing. Yeah, we don't ask, what was the worst place you went to in Paris? You don't ask
Yeah.
that
No,
question.
we're like, that's been done, that we don't need to replicate that. There's a
Because
place.
Yelp is there, right? And it's
Yep, Yelp, TripAdvisor, Google, Facebook, literally everything else. They want to know what your worst and your best was. And we're saying that's been done. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but what we're giving is direct access to people's recommendations, their favorite places. And we're always going to stay authentic. Like I believe there's a big enough opportunity to have a symbiotic relationship between customer and business. We can better serve the business by just having the recommendations, just showing what their fans say about them. And it better serves the user because it's more concise content. When you go on, you know that you're just looking for recommendations.
right.
And so the way it will work, I mean, you'll never be able to pay to be recommended on SeekPeak because
That's what I was going to
we
ask.
don't need to. Yeah, we don't need to. We're saying, look, people are going to go on and they're going to find you organically. They're going to find who's recommended you. They're going to see maybe, something else you could do is go to your favorite restaurant, see who else recommended it, and they will go see what they recommended. And that's an organic process that we will never interrupt because there's no need to.
And I like that you guys are not just looking at the venue as a whole or a restaurant. It's talk to the chef, and the chef will recommend certain things. And
Exactly. Yeah.
of course, that's what if any foodie wants is to talk to the chef. And what made you
Yeah.
pick this?
And we actually even captured that in a feature. We have a feature called Who Works Here?
Okay.
And it's a tab on a business page. And you can literally see if the business has signed up with us. It's all about the extra features that businesses get to communicate better with people who were interested in visiting them in the first place. But you can put up who works here. So you can put up the owner, the chef, the bartender, and it links to their profile and you can see all their recommendations. So it's capturing that moment when you're traveling that you might ask the bartender or the chef at a place that you really loved, hey, where else should I go after this?
Oh, I love it.
Now you can just go to their profile and connect with it.
It's brilliantly simple, as I'd call it, when you're done. It's amazing. Wow. Because it's something we say every day, like, what would you recommend? Yet, this is so unique and new to the market.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's exciting. So now we're just
now you're fundraising. Now you guys are traveling around.
Yeah.
What's the feedback been in terms of going to these events and sharing what you guys have done?
Excitingly, it's been like so positive. It's pretty exciting.
Oh yes.
You have many people who are, for lack of a better phrase, leaders in the Canadian tech landscape say that we are solving an actual problem. They can't think of another competitor in the space that's doing what we're doing, and that they love the product. That it's so simple. It's surprising to me. Visual marketing is so important and key in all of the world's leading travel and tourism brands. However, it's totally exempt from the sites people use to find these places.
100%.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Like yellows and blues and reds. And I understand the psychology of primary colors and drawing attention to it, but it's not pleasurable to go through.
Tacky,
yeah. And the editorials understand that, there's Goop, there's Condé Nast, there's Kinfolk.
yes.
So I'm like, why don't we have a socially networked platform that looks and feels like them?
Yes, yours does very much feel like Goop and now, okay. You put it together, thinking these colors, this font. Okay.
Yeah, so it's been exciting that because as I'm sure as someone who's also developed an app, you end up spending a lot of time alone and a lot of time with your project. And I spent a lot of time with our coders and developers. And then so it's kind of funny, you also like peek your head up, you're like, okay, I'm ready, I have my product. You're kind of putting it out there, like, what do you guys think? It's been very exciting to us that it's been all incredibly positive feedback.
Has it been hard to get funding though, in terms of pitching to investors, creating a pitch deck saying, what do you guys think? Are you interested?
Yeah, like that is a full-time, I mean, so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a CEO uh and 10 other things. Like it's a good thing. I love it because, and that's why I think, you persevere when it's passion, because I never would have lasted this long if I wasn't genuinely, because also, essentially volunteering up until this point too, which is
It all is volunteering. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You're never getting paid the
No.
full hours you put in. And I also have I have a 20-month-old and a 4.5-year-old. So
Busy
it's
life. Yeah.
very, very busy. So the fundraising itself, I mean, pitch decks are hard because it's like, hey, compress your big, huge project you've been working on for 2 years into 20 slides. And then you send it to someone, they're like, we just want 10 slides. You're like, okay. And then you send us what else? We're like, we want 25 slides. We're like, okay. But we've kept this somewhat close to our chest in the sense that we really want to find the right partner. So we have sent out a shockingly small amount of decks and been asked for meetings with about 75% of the people we sent it to.
Right. So it's the energy. Is it the synchronicity? Is like, do we align? Are we on the same
Yeah,
vision?
I got good advice early on. That's like, you're essentially getting married. Like this person is jumping on early. And yeah, they can bring you want to be looking for more than just a check. Their experience, their connections, you're bringing them onto their team. And so we're in the place right now where, again, it's just Jason and I. So we're very carefully building out our team. We want, the proper CTO, proper communications and assistants and sales and investors. They're part of the team. So it's looking for someone who is just as enthusiastic, and you need a cheerleader. And we're in the growth stage, we're just launching, brand new, pre-revenue, pre-team. So you need to have a really positive energy. You need to have someone who will support you and wants to see you grow and succeed.
Not the anchor, the catapult. Yeah.
Totally. Exactly. Yeah. So we've been learning and kind of soaking up the scene through osmosis, right? Submerging ourselves in it, getting a feel for it, understanding it, not making rash decisions, and seeing our investors as part of our team. So next up is we're going to Disrupt in San Francisco, which we're very excited for in October, kind of taking the show to the US.
As a business, if I'm wanting to be a part of CCAP, how does that work?
Yeah, you just email us.
Okay.
For the time being. So as I mentioned, we're fundraising to build out. We have our roadmap for the next 2 years of features that we plan to have unfolded. We made a decision. You have to make lots of decisions. What will go in your MVP, your minimum viable product? Ours is an extremely robust. I wouldn't even really call ours an MVP because we kind of went a bit further and built version 1, beta version 1. So for those of you listening outside of tech, beta just means kind of like not what we very first version. So somewhat in testing, somewhat to see what you think. It's like literally our very first rollout. And we had to choose, do our users have admin function or do our businesses have admin function? So we chose users, obviously, because then people can log on and use it. And businesses right now, we're adding them on manually. We're manually coding business in. And so when they say, like, as you said, when a business wants to get involved, what does that mean? Because we've had some people say, well, how do you say authentic if businesses can be part of SeekPeak? Isn't like, I got some messages once when I reshared, I think something nice a business once said about us. And I got like 3 different messages saying, hey, I thought that, this is supposed to be authentic recommendations and personal connection. Right. And I was very genuine. Like, I'm so glad you asked that. Do you mind me sharing that on our Instagram? Because if you're saying it, surely 100 other people are thinking it. And I'm not sure if you're, well, I'm sure you're aware, but of all the things going on with zero-party data.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's essentially where, and correct me if you have anything to add to my quick intro to it, but it's essentially where everyone's benefiting from shared information. So, there's third-party data, which the demise of third-party tracking, lots of businesses and marketers are a little bit nervous about, because that essentially means that, Apple and Facebook will lose a lot of the people that they're able to track the rest of your outside web browsing history, right, for instance, to get an idea what kind of ads they should be showing you. And what we're saying is, we can connect you to, well, we can provide like a bridge of connection between business and consumer that isn't us putting the business necessarily forward to be recommended. but instead making the communication easier, allowing businesses to share more about themselves. So when you land on their page organically, you see more about them, you have more opportunity to connect with them and communicate with them. And we act more as an intermediary than an interrupter in that process.
For
So
sure.
rather than holding the business hostage and saying, you'll only find out about them like if they pay us enough money, we're saying everything's out there, go have fun, find and follow people who you see things in common with, discover new businesses. And for businesses that subscribe with us, they get more robust profiles, more pictures, they get added description, things that we're not pulling from Google for all businesses.
And that's amazing. Now, if a business wants to join, is there a fee currently or not right now?
Not right now. Right now we're free.
Right now you're free. Okay.
We're free. There will be, that's kind of our monetization plan.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and that's how all of these sites operate, whether the user knows it or not, is,
it's like a directory listing site. I've created a few before, so
yeah,
I understand that, where it's like claim a page, claim a listing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So right now, if what we pull from Google has 3 photos, no description, somewhat limited contact link. And what we're saying, there'll be lots of features for businesses rolled out that when they join, they get access basically to just make their profile more robust, make it easier for people, their customers, to communicate with them.
I love it. And would it be per month? Is it a per month cost?
That's the idea, yeah. But right now it's free, and we're calling this it's all rolling forward. Could be changing, but right now we're calling it like an enhanced profile. We might play around with that you've been verified by us, or we have some other really exciting features coming that I would suggest that people sign up to hear about, because I don't want to release it too soon.
No, for
but
sure.
Just things that allow for greater matching between business and person. Again, not with us interrupting,
cool.
not with us promoting that business or putting them ahead of others, but simply saying, hey, these are some things about you that this business specifically serves, and allowing you to search for that, to be kind of, we have it planned out, but to leave some mystery in the air. But businesses will have to subscribe, because obviously it takes our time and energy to facilitate that level of search.
Sydney, as an entrepreneur and as an innovator, I would have to say, because this is unique. I'm happy that you're from Calgary. First of all, you guys are from Calgary, so that makes it happy. Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now with this, or what do you hope to see?
I really hope.
Let's put this as a time capsule, a digital time capsule.
Yeah, I love to see SeekPeak as a disruptor for what I view as a long stale industry. I think that online review sites have long, they haven't been serving travelers very well, or consumers, for a long time. And so I'd like to see SeekPeak pull up as an actual disruptor for them. So my dream is that in 5 years, SeekPeak is, at least is a global name that people know as well as they know Goop, or they know TripAdvisor, and then they see us, and that businesses know as a viable second choice to what I think is, quite frankly, extortive sales tactics on behalf of online review sites.
When you look at Goop and you look at Condé Nast and what they've done, what is it that attracts you to it? Because obviously, again, some people must love TripAdvisor, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But there's some look with Goop, and
I find it calming. Like I come from a communications background. I love design. I have a minor in art. There's something about like a printed magazine that I really love, and that, or Fast Company, I would identify as one who has really, I think, made the transition quite smoothly and innovatively over to the Apple News format. But there's something that a print magazine, or like I said, Fast Company, or going on Goop's website, or Condé Nast, or Kinfolk, Harper's Bazaar, that kind of lets you slow down and become immersed in the temporal culture they've created for you, and absorb the information. And planning, researching, reading, going through their articles, it's an enjoyment. And part of that is really, like, again, the temporal environment they've created. I think very much so is going on in like the VR, virtual reality, what's Facebook's meta world. I think that the right publication has the power to do that, in letting you disconnect from the outside world for a little bit and have joy in what you're learning and what you're researching. And so I wanted to create that with SeekPeak.
Can you see VR and AR being applied in the future?
Oh, I'm sure. Sometimes I need to like set boundaries for myself for what for what I learn.
But the more you learn, the more you say it's endless, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like one thing I love about SeekPeak is I feel like I wanted to have the feel of an editorial with an ever unfolding supply of information because of our network effect. So are there possibilities for VR? I'm sure. I mean, how cool would it be if could absolutely there would be, I could see a place for VR. But Zach, I have to put that down for put that on my schedule for like in 6 months, I'll allow myself to maybe learn more about
No,
it.
no, that's for sure. Are you enjoying the journey thus far, though?
I love it. Yeah, I'm loving it. Yeah, I really, really love it. I'm, excited, at times nervous. Sometimes you have that wake up in 3 a.m. and you're like, what have I done? What am I doing? Where am I on the journey?
But this is the
But,
right track you're on, so
oh,
I'm
thank
happy
you.
to do that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, hopefully we just keep going up and up from here.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Sydney.
Thank you, Zach.